Hello, people. Just give it 1 second to come in. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I hope you guys are doing well, and we're going to be talking about World War I and the aftermath. We're going to be talking about some documents that made some countries mad, and what had happened was that's going to be our saying for today. What had happened was, okay. So what are the most important problems a nation would or could face after such a massive, devastating war? I want you to think about that question as we go throughout the PowerPoint, and you may find your answer within the PowerPoint. And I want you to write that answer down in our comments in the Google Classroom, and you will find that, like I said, in the Google Classroom. If you want the link, if you don't have the Classroom link, please let me know, email me, and I will get you that. So let me just get my timer because I don't want to be before you long. So from war to chaos. So that's what this war was, right? It was war, then it went to chaos, right? Nobody has seen a war so massive because it was between not only, it would have been different if it were, the United States, for instance, and Britain, right? That's two countries going at one another. But this war was a global war. This was a world war, right? We saw countries like Germany go against countries like Russia. Then we saw Japan come in. Then we saw Italy come in. Then we saw Turkey come in. So it was a whole bunch of nations coming together either on the Allied side or the Central Power side, and they came together and they fought this war. So it was a whole lot of war, but then it eventually led to the chaos. So our standard tells us to describe the aftermath of World War One, the rise of communism, the Treaty of Versailles, the rise of Nazism, and worldwide depression. So throughout this PowerPoint, you will find how did the end of World War One affect the world? How did communism become a thing? How did it rise to great heights? The Treaty of Versailles' impact on the world, the rise of Nazism, and worldwide depression. So some key vocabulary words that I want you to keep in mind are propaganda, communism, fascist, and depression. So what is propaganda? Propaganda is information that is usually misleading or biased, designed to promote a particular political ideology. Communism is a socio-political model wherein all property is publicly owned and workers are paid according to their abilities and needs. Fascist is a political movement supporting strong authoritarian, government dictatorship. So just a political movement that supports a dictator. You can just write that down. That'd be easier to remember. And depression in economics is just a long-term sustained downturn in economic activity. So you'll find these words throughout this standard as well as the other standards that we'll go into, and throughout us talking about European history and World War I as well as World War II. So let's talk about what caused this war. What had happened was, so what had happened was the Archduke Franz Ferdinand Archduke Franz Ferdinand the First of Austria-Hungary. He was on a diplomatic visit, and he was in Serbia, right? So while in Serbia, him and his wife were both assassinated. And so this caused chaos among the European nations because people in Austria-Hungary were like, okay, so he was fine whenever he was here. He's been to Germany and all these other countries. But when he gets to Serbia, now he's dead. Now him and his wife have been killed, assassinated. So they called up Germany and were like, listen, okay, I need you, just in case we have to declare war on Serbia, because this was a scheme that Todd set up, right? This was a scheme that Serbia set up. And so they were like, I need you to be my ally if we have to go to war. And Germany answered back and they were like, okay, I got you. I got you. So Austria-Hungary and Germany, they were together, right? They were the central powers. So then we had countries like Russia that were on Serbia's side and were like, okay, I'm gonna stay low key. But if this does go down, if this happens, if Russia or Serbia and Austria-Hungary go at it, and it's a war that is declared, Russia said, I got your back, Serbia. I have your back. But I'm going to stay low key because I don't want everybody to know that I have your back. Which is kind of, But anyway, the Allied powers included Britain, France, Japan, Russia, and then eventually Italy. And then the Central powers included Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Turkey. But like I said, it was, this was one of the main factors, but it was also other factors that played a role into this war that eventually happened. Things like German forces invading Belgium and France. I mean, it was almost like a ripple effect. So Germany blamed Serbia, or yeah, Germany and Austria-Hungary blamed Serbia. Russia allied with Serbia. Germany declared war on Russia. Germany declared war on France by invading neutral Belgium. And then Britain declared war on Germany. So it was like all these factors are playing a part into this war that eventually happened. And we call it the First World War, as well as the Great Big War. I think it's can be called that as well, because this was a big war. Again, it was a global war. So some effects of World War One: the dismantlement, economics, peace, and bitter. So we find that the fall of monarchies of Germany, Turkey, Austria-Hungary, and Russia all failed. The monarchies, they just were dismantled completely after World War One. And we find that the dismantling of these European nations led to the establishment of new governments and widespread political instability. So, some countries could not keep their government afloat. They could not keep their government stable. Some countries had to put in new governments, right? So we find that with like Germany. And we'll discuss that as well. But another part that played a role or was an effect of World War One was economics. So Germany suffered. They suffered hard. They suffered hard um, under extreme economic sanctions, leading to political instability and the rise of fascism. Again, keep that word in mind because it'll come up plenty of times throughout this element of this standard as well as the next element. And then the economic balance of power shifted due to European debt, and the United States became the leading industrial power and creditor for other countries. And then eventually, peace became one of the things, but there was also a bitterness between countries. So the League of Nations was founded to promote security and worldwide peace. Excuse me. And then mistrust and bitterness between countries, which eventually led to World War II.